Is the Canon 50mm 1.8 or the nifty 50 any good in 2019? Well, we're still using it after 6 years. We're actually using it right now, and we still think it's the best first lens to buy, even if you're not using a Canon camera. Welcome to the Film Look. We've been using this lens for about 6 years now and first used it on the Canon 600D, but this lens has actually been out for 28 years. It was first introduced in 1990, a couple of years after Canon brought out their EOS mount system. The one we have was probably manufactured about 7 or 8 years ago, but it's the same design as the one from 1990. After moving from a crop sensor Canon to a full frame Sony, we adapted all of our Canon lenses to the Sony mount with a Lowlight adapter. There aren't too many nifty 50 Mark IIs out there, but you can still pick one up second hand for around £50. When you shoot at f1.8, the centre of the lens isn't that sharp and looks out of focus, as you can see when we've shot straight against a flat wall. When you look at the edge of the frame, the image has started to become more out of focus from what it is in the centre. This happens with a lot of lenses when you shoot wide open, but when you start to change the f-stop to f4 or f8, the focus naturally gets sharper from the centre to the edge of the frame. You'll find the 50mm sharpness sweet spot is around f4 or f5.6. But shooting at a low f-stop like 1.8 will give you that sweet looking bokeh which we all love, so there is a trade-off. When you are shooting between 1.8 and 2.8, you will get a lot of lens flares and your image will be milky if you're shooting in situations where there's a direct bright light. This is a cool effect if you want it, but to avoid it, you can simply shoot at f2.8 or higher. This will give you a cleaner looking image. When you first get this lens, you'll likely want to shoot everything at 1.8 because it looks cinematic, but you will soon realise that shooting everything at 1.8 will make your footage look amateurish if you can't keep your subjects in focus. When we first got the Canon 50mm 1.8, we did shoot everything at 1.8, mainly because it's fun and you have the ability to do so. But we soon realised that the depth of field at 1.8 will be from the person's eyes to the tip of their nose. This is fine if you're shooting a static subject, as you can focus on the person's eyes and they will stay in focus throughout the shoot. If your subject is moving around, however, you will find it very difficult to keep them in focus when shooting at 1.8. So when you're shooting on a 50mm, try shooting at 2.8 or f4. This is where the Canon 50mm performs the best. You get a sharp image with some nice shallow depth of field, but it keeps the focal plane a lot more manageable when trying to focus on a moving subject. 50mm on a full frame camera is known as a standard field of view, as it is roughly the field of view of your eyes, giving you a natural pleasing look to your image. The Canon 50mm does give you the ability to shoot in low light situations because of that 1.8 aperture. This comes in very handy when shooting on cameras like the Canon 600D, as you cannot push the ISO past 800 before the image becomes too noisy. Shooting on newer cameras like the Sony a7S has changed that. In low light situations, you can shoot at f8 at an ISO of 5000 and the image is still clean. So depending on the camera and situation you shoot in, find the best balance between shooting at a low f-stop and a high ISO so you can get a manageable and clean image. The construction of the 50mm lens is all plastic, but this has not really been a problem. We've been using it for 6 years now. There are a few marks on it, but that's just general wear and tear. Even after all of this time, we've yet to drop it. The glass is still clean, and there's even a video of someone taking the hammer to the glass and it doesn't break. Links to that video can be found in the description below, but I wouldn't recommend doing this, especially not on the body. The focus ring on the Canon 50mm lens is the biggest downside, as it is very thin. There's not a lot of room to grip onto the focus ring when manually focusing. It's not very smooth and it doesn't sound great when you turn it. Most lenses we have used have a long focus throw, which is simply how much you can turn the focus ring to go from macro to infinity focus on the lens. A long focus throw gives you the ability to do fine focus adjustments and be a lot more accurate when focusing. These manual vintage lenses have a very long throw, and if you've ever seen cinema lenses, they have a massive throw. The Canon 50mm has a very short throw, so when pulling focus, it is very difficult to be accurate and hit the same focus marks consistently. It does take practice to get used to the small focus ring, and it might just take you a couple of more tries to nail focus when shooting. When shooting a short film, we use a wireless follow focus which is operated by our first AC. Unfortunately, you'll find it very difficult to use this lens with a follow focus because the focus ring is too thin to attach focus gears properly. This isn't really a problem for most people, especially if you're just starting out. We have used the Canon 50mm 1.8 on Canon and Sony cameras, and we would definitely recommend picking one up as they're so cheap. We have never used this lens on a GH4 or a GH5? So if you have, let us know in the comments below, as we'd love to give people advice about using this lens on that camera system. If you are just starting out, I would highly recommend getting this lens. It will allow you to learn about shooting at low f-stops, focus, image quality, and also get your images looking like a film with that shallow depth of field and that natural pleasing look you get from a 50mm lens. Yes, there is a lot that goes into making your image feel and look like a film. You need props, costumes, location, lights, good sound, and a solid performance from your actors. But when you're just starting out and you just want to shoot some cool looking footage, this lens will allow you to do that whilst learning all of the other things. In no way was this video sponsored by Canon, but Canon, if you're watching, our email is thefilmlook@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments below about your favourite lenses, or if you're still using this 50mm 1.8. And remember, achieve it one shot at a time.